Alrighty, we are live. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I know it's cold, I know it's late, but I appreciate you all jumping in. Also, there's a bunch of people that registered for this that couldn't make it. So hello to you guys whenever you watch it. It's awesome to be here. For those that don't know me, my name's Amrit Rai. I'm the owner of Platform Sports. Been helping athletes like yourselves for the last 10 years. And with me, we've got the legend Paparangi Hipango, who's from Wanganui. I've known Paparangi's brother really well. He was a good university friend of mine. And then Paparangi's brother called me and said, "Do you know who my sister is and what she's achieved?" And here we are. She is an absolute legend, a rowing expert. Not many people in Australia or New Zealand have achieved what she has in the rowing community. So Paparangi, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for the wonderful introduction there, Amrit. Hi, everyone. As Amrit mentioned, I'm Paparangi from Wanganui, and I started my rowing career in the small town of Wanganui way back. So I'm really keen to, meet with everyone that's jumped on board. A little bit of background about myself. My career in the sport of rowing started at Wanganui Collegiate at the ripe age of 13. I got picked up by a couple of colleges or universities in the US when I was 15. So, yeah, my, I guess, not legacy, but I started rowing for New Zealand at the junior squad when I was 15, picked up at a pretty young age, and also by universities. So I was just sort of on their radar, and that's where the journey began. Ended up going to the University of California, Berkeley. And yeah, it was a pretty sort of critical journey for me to be successful. I ended up, getting 3 All-American titles and NCAA championship as well.
All right, so take us through your journey. How did you get started? Let's get straight into when coaches started contacting you and how you navigated that.
Yeah. So the journey started when I was around 15. Like I mentioned in my introduction team, I had started rowing for New Zealand on the junior squad. So the program that I was in at Wanganui Collegiate was pretty critical. We had a new coach come in, and she really just got us into immaculate shape. Her name's Fiona Symes. I think she's still around Wanganui at the moment, but not too involved in the rowing scene. So rowed for New Zealand, started that journey, and immediately the first year of rowing for the squad got approached at, it was Worlds by Clemson. So they're a pretty well-known university in North Carolina. And it was sort of like my first engagement with a university, just being like, oh, there's opportunities to go and get a free education, free scholarship, and do the sport that I love, all free of charge. And
did you have any other friends going through that, or were you the first one in your group to sort of get approached?
Yeah, I was the first one in my group. And just for a bit of context, for everyone that's watching, I'm a little bit older. I was graduation class of 2015, so I started at Cal Berkeley in 2010. So if we can sort of count back those years, I was 15 years old, got approached by a head coach at the time, and I was just like, oh, I'm too young to be talking to you. I've got 3 more years of school, but like, if you think that I'm good enough, maybe we can keep in touch. So yeah, the years progressed, and we did keep in touch because she was really interested in me as an athlete. So the years progressed, and I stayed on. The national team was competing and doing quite well, nationally as well. And towards the end of that journey, so toward year 13, she just said, you're actually probably too good for our program. maybe let's introduce you to some other Division I schools that,
Oh,
could benefit from, your athletic abilities, and maybe have a look at, different options around universities that could, take an athlete of your caliber.
that's amazing. So you started in year 11 getting approached by colleges, and then in year 11, 12, and 13, you just kind of stayed in touch. You didn't really make any decisions. Um, how was that first call with the college coach? Can you talk us through what that was like?
Yeah, when I was 15.
Is that when your first meeting was?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. So you're year 11, year 12, and you've done your first meeting with the college coach.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And I think at that time too, I was a bit, um, blasé about it. I was focused on school. I was focused on family. Just being in my hometown and just, competing and making sure that we were, focusing on that goal at hand, and that it was sort of towards, year 12 when I started really considering it, when a lot of my friends were, wanting to go to university around Canterbury, Otago, stay local in New Zealand. I was just like, oh, that's kind of not where I want to go. But I didn't really have, much guidance around the pathways to go to the States. And I knew that it was something that was really interesting for me. Um, but it was something that I was also trying to navigate myself. Um, and then, there was more interest coming in from a couple of other college coaches, but we were, yeah, again, it was something that was a bit tricky to navigate on my own. So
Mm.
that's where I think, somewhere like platform would have come really in handy for me at that time.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's a lot, right? Yet such a young age and getting these massive universities with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of scholarships a year that they spend on student athletes approaching you, and they've got all the bells and whistles. Now, parents want to know about academics, especially in high school. Athletes want to hear about what it was like in the US. So let's go for the academics first, and let's get that one out of the way. How important was it for you to do well in high school? And how, if you don't mind sharing some details, like how good did you do? Like what kind of results were you getting?
Yeah, really, really important, really critical. Again, I know that the academic sort of channels have changed since, I was at school, but um, what I found really difficult is by relocating when I was on the national squad. And look, this is not going to be the same for every athlete that's wanting to look to go to the States. But I had to relocate, up to Cambridge, and I was away from my school. So I was having to, work with tutors. I ended up um, moving schools in my final year to make sure that I could actually keep my grades up and, graduate and pass with good, good grades.
Yeah, fair
um,
enough.
and yeah, because look, these colleges look at your grades. That even if you're in Australia, if you're in New Zealand, you've got to correlate, good grades. Make sure that you're passing with flying colors, because academics in the States are no joke. They're going to be looking at your grades, um, to make sure that, you could be the top athlete, but you also have to, be hitting certain GPAs,
Yeah.
in order to, pick up a scholarship.
Yeah. And I think like rowing coaches have got, a certain amount of scholarships they can allocate a year. And if a
Mm.
kid's doing really well in high school and are getting like a 3.5 out of 4 GPA, which is a grade point average to everyone listening, it's on a scale from 0 to 4, 4 being excellences, 3 being merits, 2 being achieves. And you want to get as high as you possibly can. And they take an average of all your years. So some universities will say, well, look, we've got 2 rowers that are the exact same level. One's got slightly high grades. I'm probably going to go to this one because A, they can earn academic scholarships, which saves some of my rowing budget. So they can do like a 20% academic, 80% rowing. Also, it tells the coach, I guess, that the student is not just going to come to university and struggle. Because if you're struggling in high school, there's that kind of risk factor that they could struggle at university, etc. So that's why they call it student athlete, not athlete student. And also, you got to be eligible for scholarship. So you got to do 16 core subjects from year 9 to year 13. You got to get a 2.3 out of 4 GPA for Division I, which needs to be met the entire college career. Back, I guess, Paparangi, because we're the same age. When you were looking to go to college, SATs were compulsory. Now it's test optional, so athletes don't have to do it. But some universities reward student athletes really nicely if they do well in the SATs. So I guess that's something else that students should be looking at. But for you, do you mind sharing what kind of scholarship you got? Was it a full ride? Was it partial?
Yeah. So I got a full ride. And do we want to go and talk into metrics around
Absolutely.
numbers of what
I
that
think, look, we just want to be real authentic and transparent with everyone watching this. So I think just be as real as you can. We want them being stoked with the information they hear tonight.
Yeah, cool. So the full ride, and I actually wasn't fully aware of what the scholarship would give me. I think I was a bit blasé about it, whereas my parents were picking up the contracts and working through the financials, and they were like, "Go, go, we want you to go." So yeah, each year covered $50,000 US. That was my scholarship each year, 50,000.
Wow.
And for full transparency, I think when my parents picked up that first, like, well, it wasn't a pay slip, but it was just like a list, a itemized list of what everything covered. My father fell on the floor.
No way.
He was just like, "What? This is what
What
your
was
scholarship covered? Health, my academics, my housing, food, pretty much everything was covered.
tuition, all of that?
Tuition, everything was covered. The only thing that my parents ended up having, actually, no, I worked for that gap between, end of high school. So there's the break because we start in August. So I worked, some retail jobs just to save up. So,
Yeah.
had some cash on hand. Yeah, just paid for my own flights and, if I wanted to go to the movies, not that I had time because we were training all the time, just to have some pocket money.
Yeah,
So
cool.
$50,000 US.
That's crazy. That's full ride, and that's what a lot of athletes listen to this want to achieve. Did you have any athletes in your team that were ever on partial scholarships, and then based on their performances in year one, because you're in America for 4 years, based on year one, year two, they had an increase?
Yes. So it was purely based on performance. Typically for your international athletes, again, metrics, like you have to sort of hit a standard. And this was purely, at the university that I was at. I know it was for a lot of other universities as well. Typically it was, for local, when I say local, student athletes that were based in the US, if they were, dropping their 2K erg scores, jumping into the varsity eight, or just increasing their performance, then they would get more financial aid or added to their scholarship. Yeah. So partial to maybe full or 3/4.
Yeah. And student athletes with an F1 visa, which every athlete listening to this will be on, you can also work 15 hours a week on campus too, which is legal. And what kind of food stuff did you guys have on campus? What's at Cal?
At Cal? Oh, goodness. There are about 10 different dining rooms.
No way.
So, yeah, it's a pretty big campus. So if you think like a girl coming from, born and bred, raised in Wanganui, which is, I think, population 45 to 50,000 people, going to a student university campus with the same population of undergrads and postgrads, you're just walking around campus and you're like, I'm walking around a university campus with the same population as my own town. And then I can walk in, and then I can walk into, the food halls and there's just like every single, portion type of food that you can think of. And that was all paid for. Like we're training 5 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours a day. You need to eat. And just because of that scholarship that I was gratefully provided, I had all of the resources provided for me, like both educationally, nutritionally, housing wise, and then made the most amazing friends.
Amazing. That's so cool. My mate, Sefa, he's actually the assistant water polo coach at Cal. And he keeps telling me to come over and catch up with him. So that may be on the cards this year. I've got to let you know when I'm looking at going. But I've got to connect you with Sefa, actually. He's the man. We did a water polo showcase together
I
last
know
year.
Sipper.
You know Sefa?
Yeah, he was
But,
there when I was there.
oh, of course he was.
A
So
couple of years older. Yeah.
okay, we're getting off topic. We better get back to this. Anyway. So, okay, we got one question. We're just going to jump in here and ask you this question and get back to it. We've got a parent or an athlete here saying, what did you study? What did you study at university?
What did I study? Oh, yeah. What did I study? I topped and changed between a couple of majors, but I ended up studying an interdisciplinary studies major, which was a combination of business and marketing communications. So, what that means is, I'm not sure if it's, special at Berkeley, but you can create your own major. I'm pretty sure it is kind of special at Berkeley, but you can jump into the business school and then create, your own major based around.
So, what did you actually like were studying? So, were you working in like in the business side and the marketing side? Like, what were you practicing every day
Yeah.
academically?
So it was business and media studies, and so I
Okay.
combined all
And
of that. So,
on the back of that, so you got Cal Berkeley on your degree, which must be pretty nice. Um, what sort of job opportunities did you have, and where did it take you?
yeah, so I was really interested. Naturally, being in Berkeley, right across the bridge is San Francisco. I was really interested in the tech universe. So yeah, Silicon Valley was right there, and a lot of my classmates, my teammates, were sort of, it was the talk of the buzz. It was the buzz of the buzz. So the opportunities that were available were tech. So I jumped into tech, got my foot in the door, and that's basically where my career has been for the last 9 or so years.
Yeah, and you were
In
in
both
the predominantly after university, like you spent most of your years in the US.
Yeah, so not quite. So I was there for a year and a half in San Francisco, and because I'd been away from home, folks, for so long, and I know that this is maybe some of you will be thinking about. Going over to the States is kind of a scary thing if you've grown up in New Zealand. I loved the experience, and then yeah, but after graduating, got my foot in the door in tech, and then yeah, I was just like, it's time to move a bit closer to home. So jumped over to Sydney, where of course there are also so many opportunities in the tech landscape. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I was,
And did your like degree or the branding of your university impact you getting these jobs, or was it the experience that you got? Did you do any internships that kind of helped you get that job in Sydney, etc.?
I think it's a combination of the both, but definitely having Berkeley or having my university degree and my sporting background, student athlete at this US college, massive, even still to this date.
Why do employers like looking at a student athlete and looking to recruit them?
I think, well, I know that it's that element of, sportsmanship, um, being able to work really well on a team, being competitive, and I mean, just having a US college on your CV. I want to say it's an unconscious bias, or is it a conscious bias? But I definitely know that that's one of the top things that are still to this day. Having been in my professional career for 9, 10 years, people will bring up, "Oh, you went to this school? Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, and you were a student athlete. You were a competitive athlete." So they look at all of these attributes um, of having studied overseas, having played in team sports. These are like some of the main attributes that hiring managers, if you're looking further down the track, people look at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like from my end, we've hired a lot of people this year to work for Platform Sports, and all of them are former athletes. And I think for me, it's you see them being really good at time management, as you mentioned, competitive, being adaptable in different situations, dealing with pressure, all of these different things. And there's a lot of like intangibles that you can get from being a student athlete in the US, which is great. For getting back to your journey now, so we've answered that question, and I just want to ask you a bit more about your college experience. Leaving New Zealand, packing your bags. I know you're from a really tight family as well. You arrive at college, and did you go there by yourself, or did your parents take you?
No, I went there by myself.
How,
Oh
how
my goodness. Yeah, it actually, I think at the time it was because I'm quite an independent person and just, like love to go with the fly. Um, I took 2 suitcases over with me to California, and one of the coaches picked me up and from San Francisco airport. It was just, I remember it being a complete blur, and took me to the college campus, dropped me off, said, "Here's your dorm room, you know, go have fun." And it was great. Like, I'm 18 years old. I don't know what the heck is going on. I know that I'm over here on a really interesting, journey that's about to embark. Um, was and I think this is the beauty of it for, those of you mums, dads, future student athletes that are listening, is like the world is, there's so much opportunity. Like you can go out there and yeah, it's, you don't know what's going to happen, but it is exciting. Like these universities will look after you. So yeah, when I landed there, I was roomed with this crazy 6'3" volleyball athlete from Texas, um, two girls from San Diego, and they've ended up being, my best friends. And that's another thing that, still to this day, you've got to think about, like the people that you'll meet. And like I said, I went over with 2 suitcases and I had nothing else, like maybe $1,000 New Zealand in my bank account. But the girls that I was living with, their parents took care of me. They took me to Target and they like bought all of my bedding. They bought all of my bedding. They like made sure that I was okay. They were like, "Oh, this poor little girl from New Zealand, she's over here by herself." But it was great. Like, had the best time.
That's awesome. And I guess like O week would have been great for you, orientation, making sure that you're meeting everyone and your professors. Now you're into season. So you've arrived in August. Now we're going into the month of September. You're getting into routine. What did a day as a rower at Cal Berkeley look like from when you open your eyes in the morning to when you go to sleep at night? How did that work play by play?
Yeah. So 5:15 wake up, I believe. Roll out the door at 5:20. The vans pick you up, and then you drive out 20 minutes out to the lake. Train for about an hour and a half, and then come back. You got to shower real quick. We've got amazing facilities at Berkeley, and I'm talking specifically about Berkeley because this was my experience. But I do know that the other universities are like crazy the same. I've been to Stanford, I've been to UCLA, I've been to USC. Like they have amazing facilities, and they make sure that their athletes are well taken care of. Um, from coaching staff to if you need to get some rehab, if you need to like anything that showers, all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, come back, make sure you're showered. You don't want to go to class all kind of crusty and dusty having not showered. um, yeah, typically class would start off at about 9, so you'd have that block in between study, attending class, and then as a rower, then you'd have a water training session in the afternoon, which normally was about another hour and a half to 2 hours. So yeah, 4 days a week you'd be on the water day and night. You'd have 2 weight sessions a week, so that'd be about hour and a half, 2 hours. A lot of cardio as well. And then Saturdays were normally a 3.5 hour session on the water.
Lovely. Sounds like a lot of time on the water throughout the week, which is exactly what a lot of athletes want, right? They want to get better and put in the work. Talk about your athletic facility. So the NCAA builds these facilities at universities, which is a sports center that only athletes on scholarship can get access to. William, my manager, was saying that a person that is not a student athlete are called NARPs or something, which is that true? Non-athletic regular people?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, is that what I'm still saying?
That's what Will said. Oh, that's crazy. But you're a student athlete, right? So you guys have got the swagger and you got the chaps, and you get access to this facility. Tell everyone what your athletic facility is like that only athletes can get access to.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could show you the photos. I'm sure if anyone Googles, you'll be able to see what the facilities look like at Berkeley and Stanford and Yale and all the likes. But only student athletes could access, let's say, the football stadiums, the massive gyms, the underground tunnels into the training rooms, the weight rooms, where you went for rehab, where you needed to go for cupping or massages, for the kitchens. So depending on what sport you're in, you'd get fed for your team, and pools and everything. So, and that was only specific to athletes. So it's pretty high tech. It's very flashy. It's like all that you could think. America is big, right? And the other thing too is, the kit, the athletic gear that you were provided. So every team has, sponsored by Nike or Adidas or anything, or specific brands. So I don't know how to say it, but you're treated pretty well as an athlete. You train hard. You have to train hard, because they want to make sure that you're performing and that you're recovering.
Like, the City Fitness, for example, was that the size of your gym, or was it bigger, or what was it like? That only athletes do. What's that? Like any City Fitness, or what kind? Like these are people that have never seen it before. Like, how big was it? What was it? What were you given?
Oh, the one at Berkeley is about the length of the like a football, like a gridiron field.
The gym.
The gym.
The gym's the same size as an American football field.
Same length as the football field, and that was built. I think that was built around my sophomore year, so my second year. So that was all brand new. So there's a brand new football field built, and then there was it was like a coliseum. So the outside was like a gap, and the length on the outside of the football field, there was a gym built internally, and then we ended up calling it the fishbowl because it was all glass up top and it was sort of undergroundish.
That's crazy. That is
So the
crazy.
thing was the football field, and then there were internal facilities like alongside the football stadium.
So anyone
Uh,
watching this, go YouTube and just type in Cal Berkeley Athletic Facility Tour, and I think you'll be able to see it for yourself. It sounds pretty outrageous. Now, let's say you decide you guys are traveling away and you're catching a flight or you're driving and staying overnight because you're competing against a different university. A, how did it work with competitions? How does that work? And then also, how did you manage your academics on top of the intensive traveling schedule that you've got?
yeah, so great question. So if we were competing out of town, um, if we were competing out of town, so we would just do a regular, depending on what part of the season it was, regular training week. So we'd do like head racing, or as we sort of go closer to, Pac 12s, or the big meets leading up to nationals. Always it was, that schedule of training. And then we'd either, jump on a flight or jump in the vans or the buses and be taken to hotels. So it was very, very strict regiment, strict routine around arriving, being paired up with a teammate, jumping into our hotels, going and training on the lake or the river or wherever we were going to be competing. And that was all paid for. Food was provided for us. It was sort of like boot camp, like I'm sure, any rower that's sitting on this webinar is familiar with, when you travel away, you're in boot camp, you're training pretty strictly. But again, we're in America. Like they're feeding you well. You're making sure that your nutrition is on par. You're eating at the right times, and you're training at the right times leading up to the competition.
How did you manage your academics though? That must have been
And
tough.
yeah, yeah. And that's another thing that we can bring back to the academic facilities that we were just talking about. Uh, Within those academic facilities, you have student athlete specific resources that are tutors. So you have access to them whenever, wherever you need. So, if you're away on competition and you're trying to get an assignment or a paper through, you could call or text them anytime. That's one of the biggest things that I think I found pretty difficult when I first went to Berkeley, because it's a very heavily academic school. And like, if I wasn't keeping my grades up, then, well, just with anyone, you can't compete. So academics was very, a big component to ensuring that you were able to pass the year, pass the semester, but also keep competing. So yeah.
Did your coach ever get access to your grades? A lot of my athletes at the moment, the coach gets reports every couple of weeks. Did your coach have a grasp on the entire team academically?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He was mostly focused on his top two varsity crews. So,
Yeah.
and if you were on a full scholarship, he was eagle eyes on us like a hawk. Eagle, hawk. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. So it was really, I guess, and I found this with, other student athletes around the world who perhaps weren't, used to the rigor of how intense the academic system is in the States. They were, some of them struggled every now and then, depending on, some of the classes or courses that I took. I was just like, for example, I took Spanish. most people in California know how to take Spanish or speak Spanish. Um, and I was sort of dropping in that area because it was so far advanced. And my coach was like, Papa, are you all good? You're going to keep your grades up in this? And I was like, I might have to drop this, coach. But yeah, and that's one of the things, like, you go over on a full scholarship or a partial scholarship, you have to perform in your grades. And the coach, in my experience, the coaches will, you know, have eyes on you like a hawk because you're on a full ride. Um, you're an asset to the team, and they want to see you successful because they want the crew to be successful, the team to be successful. So yeah, there's a massive push to stay on top of your grades,
That's
and there's a
awesome.
lot of support.
Did you, let's say you are traveling on a Saturday morning, you're going away to go compete against a different university,
Mm.
and you've got an assessment due Monday, but it's unfair because you're representing the university Saturday and Sunday, and you're missing out pretty much on 2 days of time to prepare for an assessment on Monday. Was your professors all good for you to like get extensions on your assignments? Did you have to put written notice in there, or how did that work?
Um,
Or did you just get it done early?
I just got it done early. I just, for me, there was no excuse, and that sort of falling back to, the resources that we have available. Like, they are available, use them. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And they're free. They're free. They're there to support. They're there to make sure that we were successful. But like, I remember in my junior year, and not to sort of push anyone off or dissuade anyone, I remember in my junior year, I think for about a month, I probably got maybe 5 hours sleep whilst we were training almost the same amount per day because I was just so focused on making sure that I was successful with getting certain papers through. But if, push came to shove, I could just reach out to, my professors or yeah, the other people in the split classes that we would take outside of main lectures, if I could just get a bit of an extension. And they were normally pretty good, but you know, not taking advantage of it, being a student athlete because you didn't want to kind of tarnish your brand or any other student athlete's brand um, around
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's just like time management. You got to make sure that you're planning ahead if you've got a big exam or um, you know, papers that you've got to have to hand in.
Yeah, I think back then you didn't have AI and stuff like all these kids have these days, right? Where they can like plan their weeks out to the T. And honestly, like getting 5 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep as a university student is actually quite common. I mean, I pulled so many all nighters half the time because I left things to the very last minute, but it happens quite often. And I think parents that also went to university can know that, and even people here that own their own businesses know that it takes, you got to get a bit of elbow grease as well for anything that's worthwhile pursuing. For you, if you could tell your younger self any bits of advice or give your younger self a pep talk, what would
Mm,
that be? Because being the year 11 student in Wanganui that got approached by some of the biggest name schools in the world to come and row for them, um, what advice would you give yourself?
mm.
Tough question. By the way, guys, I did not tell Paparangi that I'm asking any of these questions. We did not. We don't want to make it like a script that she's reading off. That's why it's so organic. We just want to give you guys as much raw material as we can. So I apologize for that loaded question, but what advice would you give your younger version of yourself?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, like year 11, I think don't leave it till the last minute. Like, recognize that if people are approaching you, um, recognize that you are a talent and there's a reason why. And Get the process started earlier, quicker. Do your research, and in any case, like I left it quite late, and it was genuinely such a struggle to try and get through the whole process of researching the schools that I wanted to go to, and I was kicking myself in year 13. Like I left it late, kicking myself in year 13, being like, what am I going to do? I don't want to go to university in the States. I don't think I want to, in New Zealand. Don't think I want to, yeah, I'm just not sure. And it ended up being like quite a tricky journey trying to get over there. We made it, but start the process early, get around some of the resources that are available. If you've got resources available, reach out to them, work with them, and set a list of the top schools that you're interested, like pros and cons, academics, sports,
Location,
climate. That's why I chose Cal Berkeley, was because California, closer to home. I could come and visit family. It didn't snow. Like, remember, we were out in boats 4 to 5 hours a day. 4 hours. I didn't want to be rowing in the snow. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. Does it?
It does. I think early bird gets the worm. I mean, I've got college coaches right now asking me for athletes that are graduating high school in 27, 28. Like the recruiting process starts so early. And one thing that you can't change overnight is your academic GPA, because that they take an average throughout your duration in school. Also, your 2K erg and your times that you need to be hitting as a rower. Like if you start the process early, you can identify what the targets are, and then you've got time to work towards them. Because again, like when I grew up playing tennis, that's what my family are in, and I was never an elite athlete like you. Like I wasn't in the Tennis New Zealand program. I wasn't winning nationals in New Zealand. I wasn't doing anything like that. But if someone at a younger age shoulder tapped me and said, "Hey, Amrit, this is where we want you to be in your sport, and this is what you need to do, and here's the roadmap for it," I would have loved that. And that's what I take pride in giving my athletes for the last 10 years. I know I said I was going to ask you, that was the last question, but I lied. I've got a few more.
No, go.
Your
Glenn's
proudest
asked,
moment.
by the way.
What's that?
Glenn has, Mr.
Yeah.
Fifield has popped the question in there. Did we answer that?
How many hours training per week versus class hours? So you were saying like about 5 to 4 hours on the water a day on average?
Yeah. So around about, let's say 3.5 to 4 hours.
Okay.
And then we would, be in the gym on the bike or lifting weights or doing stretching.
Yeah, cool. And classroom hours, you would have had about 4 hours, 5 hours of classes a day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Your proudest moment as a college athlete, what was your proudest moment?
Oh, having my brother be at Indianapolis when I won a national championship.
Wow. That is
In
so
the
cool. Yeah.
We got the ring.
Are you wearing it too? That is so cool. For anyone that is watching this, that is so hard to get. Like, how did you feel when you won the national championship?
Oh, I blacked out in like the last 250 meters. So I didn't even realize that we'd won. we, were, we were so in the zone. Yeah. And I think that like when you've got such a good crew and you're not looking out of the boat, you're so in tune with one another. We just weren't focusing on anything apart from our race plan. And we trusted in every single person in our boat, our cox, and we were just coxswain, like everyone knows what a cox is. And I think I was just I just wasn't even aware. I just spaced out in the last 250 meters. So, yeah. we got that ring. It's not like anything flashy, like, the big
Yeah,
bedazzled
yeah. That's
football
still
ones.
amazing. That's still amazing. Now we've got two people. We've got two people in our team that have won national championships. Jack Salt, Westlake boy, won a basketball Division I championship at University of Virginia, and you. So you are two very special people in the platform team, which I'm stoked about. And I love it because William is always he's got a little bit of a banterous personality, and he likes to think he was the man at Chestnut Hill when he was playing lacrosse in Philadelphia. But that will humble him really quickly. So I'm really glad you got that. Thank you. Um, but look,
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate this chat. I think this has been great. Again, apologies about the technical difficulties. Don't know what happened there, but we'll edit this and send it out to you guys again. Look, a lot of families are probably thinking, what next? I want to talk to Paparangi. We've chucked a meeting link there on the side. So if you go to the chat, you can schedule a one-on-one free consultation. Oh, we got a question. Hi, what boats and oars were standard issue for you to use?
Ooh, we wrote in at Cal. It might have changed since I left, but we were rowing in Pocock boats and used concept two oars. But every college is different.
Right. Testing your memory there a little bit, but
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
hope
been
that
long.
good
Long.
question. But yeah, parents are going to leave this. I'm going to have a ton of questions after this as well. So if you want to get in touch with Paparangi, just literally click that booking link and you can book a one-on-one. You'll get sent the email and it'll go into your calendar right away. Then she can jump on a call. Also, if you want to know a little bit more, I know quite a few of you have already spoken to Paparangi and also spoken to me as well about coming on board. And a couple of you guys have signed, which is great. But if that is something that you want to do, just talk to Paparangi directly and she'll take you through a one-on-one meeting on what our process is like. I'll jump on that meeting as well to let you guys understand what our contracts and all that stuff look like. And if it works for you, we can get started. One important thing though, once you join the platform team, you can't leave. You're part of our family. And all I want to do is make sure that I get a message one day from you guys like this that I got last week, Friday. This is Tallulah. She graduated college and she said to me, "Hey, Amrit, how are you? I just graduated. I'm moving to New York in August to get my master's from John Jay College of Criminal Justice." Go Tallulah. She's a soccer player from Wellington. So for us, like we take pride in our work. We want to make sure that you have a very easy pathway into the college system. College isn't for everyone, but if it's something that you want to explore, hit that link and I'll also send you an email after this as well. Now, if you've got any questions that you want to ask me directly, when I sent you guys an email, at the bottom of my signature was my cell phone number. Just literally call me. I don't have a work phone. I just got this phone here. I'll answer it anytime. My partner actually hates me answering the phone at night, but I do it anyway because it's just part of the job. So just let me know if you guys need anything. And again, there we go. There's a phone call coming in later for you, Paparangi. But anyway, if you guys need anything, follow us on Instagram, check us out on YouTube, listen to our podcast on Spotify. There's a ton of content there. But thank you so much, Paparangi. I really, really appreciate it. You're a legend. And we're stoked to have you on board in our team. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you.